People working for Google and Amazon and so on, 10 years ago, they were all extremely happy. Their work conditions were excellent. They took a lot of money out. They felt that they were contributing new services to the world, that they were democratizing technologies and so on. Today, there is a class struggle happening inside big tech. The majority of the workers in these companies realize that they have become nothing more than a source of free cash flow that people like Bezos use in order to buy back their own stocks and push up their own rents. Okay, now you will have to choose who speaks because I can't see anyone.
Hi, I don't think the situation you describe is a hypothesis. I mean, it's a clear fact, and it's only going to continue. So it's the question beyond that, where does techno-feudalism take us? I mean, China has its relationships with its banks, its finance side, and it's all one very connected thing, and we've got the Russian thing, the American system, which is much more fragmented. How do you see that developing over the next 10 years? Because that's probably enough for us to see where it's going to go.
Look, I'm not a prophet, and I don't believe in predicting, because I think we can sit down and come up with a million different predictions. What I do know is that there are two serious dangers. One is that there's going to be a war, because if the Americans fear that they are losing their hegemony, they will start a war. They've done it before, they will do it again. And from that war, none of us are going to survive. The second danger is that there won't be a war, but there will be a bifurcation of the world into two blocks. One will be increasingly drawn to the Chinese system. Already you can see this with BRICS Plus, with BRICS Pay, with the BRICS New Development Bank. And that will involve countries like India, countries, even though they have a major geopolitical clash with the Chinese, they understand that they cannot rely, as Europe did, on the Americans. If they do, then they're doomed. So that world, and then another world where the United States with Trump or some successor of Trump, doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat, you will see that the Democrats, even if they win power again, they are not going to undo what Trump did. They are going to take it forward, maybe in a slightly different direction. That we are going to have a North Atlantic economy that is going to stagnate increasingly as these cloud trends are being extracted. And that is not going to augur well for us because the discontent is going to grow further. And whenever you have discontent without a sophisticated left harvesting that discontent, it is the xenophobes and it will be the neo-fascists and the racists that will do so as they are doing it. So we need to get our act together as progressives, as Brits, as Americans, as Europeans, and find a way out of this bifurcation, which is not going to be a good thing for us.
Yeah, thanks. We talked a lot about Amazon.
Yeah.
A hypothetical. Imagine that tomorrow you are to be made the CEO of Amazon, like Jeff Bezos. What would your first 100 days look like?
I had never asked myself that question because it would have been so delusional. But since you're asking it, let me say what I would do. I would move towards taking Amazon out of the stock exchange and moving to a one worker, one share, one vote. Okay, that's not nationalization, it's socialization. Because suddenly, you know, if my views were strong enough, well, I would have to have them tested by putting them to every other shareholder, every other employee of Amazon, and then I would have to convince them. Of course, because I would be doing that, I would never have been made CEO of Amazon. You understand that, right? So the solution is not some kind of personality cult. It would, you know, the progress is not going to be brought about by individuals doing the right thing. It has to be a democratic movement that fights for this transformation, for a new corporate law, which moves us towards a one employee, one share, one vote. Because at the moment, you know, people working for Google and Amazon and so on, 10 years ago, they were all extremely happy. Their work conditions were excellent. They took a lot of money out. They felt that they were contributing new services to the world, that they were democratizing technologies and so on. Today, there is a class struggle happening inside big tech. The majority of the workers in these companies realize that they have become nothing more than a source of free cash flow that people like Bezos use in order to buy back their own stocks and push up their own rents.
Any more? Is everyone afraid of asking questions? Oh, here we are.
So what can the people that heard that now from you can do? How can we contribute to this changing in a better way?
That which we always had to do since the beginning of capitalism. What was the answer to the exorbitant power that accumulated in the hands of the owners of capital in the 19th century? The answer was a trade unions movement. The answer was agitating for democratic reforms so that our parliament can have the guts and the means by which to introduce legislation in favor of the majority, not of the tiny minority. But now we have an additional problem that didn't exist in the 19th century, which didn't exist in the 20th century. And that is that our conversation is being poisoned by the very same algorithms that we need to organize against. Because, when you own Instagram, X, and all those means by which we communicate with one another, then the algorithm, even if the algorithm is apolitical, the algorithm is primed, is optimized to do one thing, to maximize the cloud rents that its owner extracts from you. And the computer, the code, has discovered surreptitiously, empirically, without any ideology, that the way to get you hooked onto the screen is by inciting hatred. So it poisons our conversation. So we need to find ways of using those algorithms in order to organize democratic movements. So let me give you a simple example. An outfit that I'm involved in called the Progressive International, every Black Friday, December, Black Friday, this major sale by the huge mega stores, we organize a campaign globally. It's called #MakeAmazonPay. You may have seen it. We are behind that. So the idea is to have a rolling strike beginning in Vietnam at the beginning of the day, the rising sun, go to Bangladesh, go to India, go to Germany, go to New Jersey, go all the way to Seattle, and at the same time to have a consumer boycott that we organize through social media. So I'm giving you this as an example of things that we actually can do. But to expect the CEOs to do it for us, no.
Okay, and one last question.
One last question.
Very quick, please.
You talked earlier today about shifting to public ownership, but these areas are moving very quickly. Before Magnificent Seven, it was FANG, and by the time you shift Google into public ownership, then we're not doing search anymore. We're using AI to query. So how can you keep up with the fact that this isn't one company which just exists? It's a continual turnover of people owning this kind of means of production.
Well, the reason why I'm still in politics, even though I can assure you I hate it, is because there is no alternative to politics. Because the answer to your question is by introducing legislation that changes corporate law. And when we say bring it to public ownership, you cannot nationalize Google. You cannot nationalize, these huge things because they're not national, they are international. But what you can do is you can say to them, once you have a democratic mandate to say that in your parliament, you can say to them, if you want to operate in my country, then you're going to have to give this percentage of your shares to a social equity fund that belongs to my country. Because we are producing your cloud capital, mate. So we need to have dividends from that. And then use your voting power, which is publicly owned now, in order to influence. And if this is an international movement, and it can happen in other countries, look, it's a very arduous process. It's a big ask, but there is no alternative.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
thank you for being part of the conversation.